Today we're going to talk about the subtraction property of equality. This property states that if A equals B, then A minus C equals B minus C. We have this general equation, A equals B. A represents the left-hand side of any equation, and B represents the right-hand side. We know that since it's an equation, the left-hand side equals the right-hand side, so A is equal to B. If we take away the same number from both sides, in this case C, then the equation is still equal and true. Think of the equation like a scale. On the scale, we have A on one side and B on the other. Since the equation says they're equal, the scale is balanced. If you take away the same amount of weight from both sides of the scale, then the scale must still stay balanced. Now let's apply this concept to our first example. We have n plus 3 equals negative 7. When we solve equations, we want to get the variable by itself. Because we're adding a 3 to n, we want to use the opposite of addition, which is subtraction. And then we want to subtract the same number we're adding, in this case 3. Going back to that property, we know that if we subtract some number from one side of the equation, we must also subtract it from the other side of the equation. That way the equation will stay equal. Now we want to simplify both sides. If it helps, you can draw a line to separate the left and the right-hand side of the equation. To simplify the left-hand side, we have n plus 3 minus 3. The plus 3 and minus 3 are going to equal 0, so we just have n on the left-hand side. To simplify the right-hand side, we have negative 7 minus 3, which is going to get us a negative 10. Since the variable is by itself, we have finished solving the equation, and we have n equals negative 10. You can always check your answer, and to do that, we want to rewrite the original equation. And since we said that n is equal to negative 10, we can substitute negative 10 in place of n. Everything else we can rewrite exactly the same. Now let's simplify. We have negative 10 plus 3, that equals negative 7. Our equation now looks like negative 7 equals negative 7, and that is true. So we do know that n is equal to negative 10. Let's take a look at this next example. We have 9.2 equals 4.8 plus m. Even though we have decimals in this equation, we can still use the same concepts. We're trying to get m by itself. To get m by itself, we have to get rid of this plus 4.8. To get rid of addition of a positive number, we want to subtract that same number away, because they're going to cancel each other out. Again, going back to that property that we just learned, when we subtract one number from one side of the equation, we also have to subtract that same number from the other side of the equation to keep the equation true. Now we want to simplify both sides. And to do that, if it helps, you can draw a line to separate the left-hand side and the right-hand side. We can simplify the left-hand side by taking 9.2 and subtracting 4.8 to get 4.4. Then we can go ahead and simplify the right-hand side. We have 4.8 minus 4.8, that's going to get us 0, so m is going to be left by itself on the right-hand side. Now that the variable is by itself, we have finished solving the equation. So we have 4.4 equals m, and if you want to, you can rewrite it as m equals 4.4. Both of those mean the same thing. We can now go ahead and check to make sure that 4.4 is the correct answer. So to do that, we want to rewrite the original equation. And then since we found that m was equal to 4.4, we can plug in 4.4 for m and rewrite everything else exactly the same. Now we can go ahead and simplify. We're going to have 9.2 equals, and then 4.8 plus 4.4, that does equal 9.2. So that means that our solution is correct and m is equal to 4.4. To sum up the subtraction property of equality, If you have any equation and you subtract one number from one side, you must also subtract it from the other side as well to keep the equation balanced and true. And that's the subtraction property of equality.